Hello and welcome back to Josh Davidson Books. This is my author YouTube channel where I'm continuing my reread of my very first novel that I ever wrote, Werewolves Hide, as part of my preparation and work towards writing its sequel, Book 2. So I'm reading the story to refresh my memory on it, and I'm also adding author commentary and sharing behind-the-scenes thoughts and intentions as I read it throughout. If you enjoyed this chapter or have enjoyed this book, please consider supporting me by buying the book. It's only $4.99 for the digital version. I've got links in the video description. If you buy any version, digital, paperback, or hardcover, please consider reviewing it on Amazon. It helps a bunch. So let's keep going. And again, I'm not a performer. I'm not reading it to be an audiobook. I'm literally reading it for my own homework. If you want the voices and the description and the imagination yourself, highly recommend reading it yourself. But if you want to enjoy my version here we go. So chapter 23. Madison uses the white wolf hide to continue grasping onto the ceiling of the tunnel. She looks down the hallway and sees the dark wolf doing the same. Tommy and Bo are standing on the ground in between them as the chained man in the room next to the hall begins to shake violently. Tommy looks up at Madison. I have to go get Sterling. We can't be alone. You and Bo try to hold things down here. I'll find him and I'll keep an eye out for Lacey. He takes off, running down the hall and turns around the corner. As he sprints around it, he accidentally runs into the tall blonde woman that has been seen with the bullies. Tommy slows his pace and grabs her arms, trying not to knock her over. I'm sorry, really sorry. The blonde woman frees herself and straightens out her white collared shirt. And what are you doing down here? She poses the question as if she knows him. I'm looking for my friend. He just came from the cage area back here. Have you seen him? The blonde woman looks over Tommy's shoulder and sees the direction he's coming from. The man in chains. I'm his caretaker. Is he still at rest? Tommy takes a deep breath and tries to prepare an acceptable answer as her concern grows. Please tell me he's at rest. Tommy continues past her. Sorry, I'm not much for lying. He's awake. I gotta go find my friend. When I get back, I expect some answers for what the heck's going on down here without me knowing. The caretaker's pale face turns red and her hands tremble. As she reaches into her pocket to pull out her phone, she attempts to send Hank a text message that reads, The depriver is awake. Clean up your mess. As she presses send, a message failure notification is received as there's no cell phone coverage this deep underground. She exhales in frustration and takes off in the direction Tommy runs in. With Bo in the chained room, the depriver begins to shake violently, breaking the chains out of the wall. His eyes roll into the back of his head as the convulsions intensify. Bo looks at his ankle where a chain once was and notices a patch of fur forming. He recognizes how similar it is to his own patch when he transforms, and recalls his father's advice as he speaks it out loud to himself. The change point. As the depriver shakes and slowly stumbles forward, Hank suddenly arrives just in time to help. Bo, what happened? Sterling dropped a bunch of the rocks in front of him when he tripped. What is all this? He's a depriver. A sacrifice chasing our true form and ultimate power. Months and months of self-control and isolation, and you just ruined it. Bo doesn't care at all. Oh, boo-hoo, where are my girls? Hank starts to change. If we don't kill him now, none of us get out of here alive. He can't be allowed to transform. I can't lose my baby! Hank turns and looks at Bo. He rests his changing wolf hands on Bo's half-wolf cheek. Neither can I. Hank is able to instantly complete his transformation, likely from years of practice. In one single moment, he lets out an echoing roar as his body changes into full wolf mode. He's covered head to toe in gray razor fur and is only slightly taller than Bo. Likely his wolf form has gotten shorter with time. Wolf Hank darts into the chained man's room, sensing the threat and slashing at him violently. Sheriff Theron, who has been hiding at the end of the hall behind the corner where the dark wolf has been waiting, suddenly peers around and sees a full wolf. He shouts up at the dark wolf, instructing them to strike. Now's our chance! Get him! The sheriff gives the order as soon as Hank changes, and it appears they are after him specifically. In the white wolf hide, Madison is the only one here to handle the dark wolf. It suddenly speed runs down the hall, trying to get into the room where Hank and Bo are. She drops from the ceiling and intercepts the dark wolf's jump. Madison wraps her arms around him and throws him to the other end of the hall, away from the depriver's room. The dark wolf flies through the air and is slammed sideways against the dirt wall. He stands up, shakes the dirt off, then readies his stride to run again at her. Madison leans back on her foot and begins her stride to run right at him. Now we have a scene break. While that action is going on, we go to another scene. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the tunnels, Sterling runs alone in the dark, heading west like he said he would. He stops at another staircase and finds another old hand-drawn map, similar to the one they found when they came down their entrance. His current location confirms that this is the right way. He takes the map with him and continues to run west. Finally, he slows as he approaches the side room he has been looking for. He pulls out the map and a printed document from the backpack that he brought with him. He compares the two and confirms that the low-density readings came from this part of the mountain. He looks into the side room and sees a lone, full wolf digging vigorously. It's using its claws alone to tunnel straight into the wall. At its feet is an insanely large pile of dirt and anorthosite rocks. It appears the wolf is digging because of the uncontrollable urge to keep getting more of the stones. Sterling looks at his paperwork again and sees that this area of the mountain is very close to the waterfall outside. As he shuffles his pages to put them back in his backpack, the rustling of paper catches the attention of the digging full wolf. It stops scraping the dirt wall and turns around to look at Sterling. It sniffs in his direction and growls. Sterling is paralyzed with fear and can't bring his legs to help him run away. As the digging full wolf stands tall to its natural height, it looks down at Sterling, who has just decided to give up putting the documents back in his bag. As the wolf prepares to attack him, Sterling throws his pack to the other side of the tunnel. When it lands, the pile of anorthosite reveals itself. The wolf can't help but direct its attention towards that instead. It briefly sniffs back and forth between Sterling and the backpack before instantly leaping over to the rocks. Sterling uses the opportunity to run back in the direction that he came from. As he leaves, a small drop of water leaks out of the hole in the wall where the wolf is digging. Sterling runs back around the corner and bumps into Tommy. They are both exasperated with each other as they try to shout over each other. Tommy starts with Sterling soon following. "What the heck were you thinking running off on your own like that? You could have died or gotten any of us killed. We stick together, we stay together. That's our only way." Sterling shouts over Tommy. "I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't an emergency. The kid wants his girl and that's cool, but if we don't stop this low-density situation, we're not going to have a town to escape to." The last sentence catches Tommy off guard. "What do you mean?" "These wolves are digging, and they're lowering the density of the surrounding area of Sadie Volcani. If they don't stop, this magma will not be held down, and everyone in Blue Ridge is going to die. On top of that, they're digging by the waterfall, and this whole effing place may flood any second." If you recall, all the way back in Chapter 4, Lacey said something to Tommy about hearing digging, and it was so loud and so consistent and reverberated throughout the land that she heard it there. And anyway, we teased it a while ago. It was teased a while ago. Tommy looks around as if a solution is going to pop up out of thin air. Nothing does, so he has to think fast. He gives himself a pep talk. Okay, think. Where the F is this girl? "I don't know, but stay away from the north room, whatever you do. It smelled like the worst rotten milk I've ever smelled in my life going past there." Sterling plugs his nose in disgust. Tommy's interest is sparked. "You need to take me to that room, right now." "I just said do the opposite. What do you mean?" Sterling is very angry about needing to go back. A few moments later, Tommy and Sterling walk together to a new tunnel we haven't seen before. Children's finger paintings are on the floor, and childlike sketches are on the dirt walls. Tommy and Sterling gag as they cover their noses to limit the wretched stench from entering their airways. Tommy speaks muffled while his nose is plugged. The milk is being used to cover up other smells and detract predators from entering. I used to do the same thing camping when I was a kid. That's disgusting, and we are never going camping. Sterling is beside himself with this heavy, thick, oppressive smell. The closer they get to the north room, they start to hear the sound of a baby crying. They look at each other through their plugged noses in excitement as they feel they have finally found Lacey and the baby. They pick up their pace and sprint to enter the north room. Now we go back to resume the action in the tunnel. Back at the chain room tunnel, Hank and Bo are aggressively biting, scratching, and kicking at the cuffed man as his transformation continues. Bo bites him on his ankle and tries to claw at his change point, but the man kicks him away every time. His actions prove he has more strength than Hank and Bo combined, even though he's still mostly in human form and hasn't taken on a lot of wolf characteristics. In the hallway, the dark wolf and Madison in the white wolf hide continue to battle it out. She knows someone is in that dark hide, so even though she's afraid, Madison believes in herself to stand her ground. The dark wolf attacker is frighteningly aggressive. Madison is trying to be more defensive since she is relying on the strength of the white wolf and doesn't have any formal training for fighting. They exchange blows, kicking and clawing at each other. The impenetrable razor hair and muscles protect them both from feeling any pain. However, the swipes produce additional scratch marks, showing that the wolves can damage each other. Now covered in additional slashes, besides the 3 it started with, the dark wolf lunges at her again. She rolls down on the ground to dodge it, causing him to smash his razor fur into the wall. A piece of anorthosite falls out of it due to the impact. The dark wolf cannot help himself and leans over to pick it up. Seeing that he's distracted, Madison takes the wolf bone blade off her back and grips it with both hands. She runs at the dark wolf full speed while it's distracted and raises the sword above her head, preparing to strike it in the center of its heart. Just before she can stab him with the blade, Sheriff Theron unloads all 6 Magnum pistol rounds, shooting Madison. All the bullets hit the white wolf hide, luckily deflecting off of her and getting stuck in the side of the wall. But the gunshots still frighten her and cause her ears to ring. This also brings the dark wolf back to full attention, and he faces her just as she reaches him. The dark wolf uses his left claw to grab Madison against her momentum, tossing her over his shoulder. He squeezes and twists her left arm as he throws her, snapping it in half. Madison lands on the ground as the wolfbone blade falls to her side. Got to leave the action again and go back. We're going back and forth. Now we're back with Tommy and Sterling as they arrive at the north room. The walls are all lined with various milk cartons, boxed milk, half gallons, whole gallons, and individual servings. At the front of the room, the milk labels seem fresh. The deeper they go, the more faded the tags are and the more rancid the stench gets. They see the doctor again, but he's standing in front of a baby crib this time. The mobile that hangs above the crib has various stars and moons attached to it. The baby cries as the doctor looks down at her. Tommy raises his shotgun and points it at the doctor's back. Get away from that baby. The doctor immediately complies and steps aside. As he moves over, a chair is revealed to be sitting behind the crib he had been obstructing. Sitting in the crib is Lacey's dead, naked body. Her head is slouched motionless and her stomach is covered in blood. The baby in the crib continues to cry as the doctor tries to explain. So the baby's in the crib and Lacey is in the chair behind it. And unfortunately, they're too late. And the doctor speaks. Unfortunately, I did not have the necessary resources to stop her bleeding. I am very sorry. The doctor speaks stoically without remorse. Tommy and Sterling fight back tears as they approach the crib. Sterling's parental instincts kick in as his anger causes him to pull his gun on the doctor, pointing it at him. Tommy lowers his shotgun to approach the crib as Sterling keeps an eye on the doctor. He looks and sees that Beau's daughter appears okay. She's a normal human baby wrapped in a dirty blanket, screaming and crying for someone to hold her. Tommy looks at the doctor and sees a small hammer-like instrument in his hand. What were you going to do to her? The doctor laughs nervously. Oh, it's really a simple procedure. When a wolf child is still a child and not yet changed, we simply break their left arm to see if they heal themselves. If they heal, then we can easily confirm they are wolf kind. If not, we wrap the injury and let it heal so as not to harm the child meaningfully. Sterling is at a mental breakdown. You were going to break a baby's arm with an effing hammer, and you're going to say that doesn't harm them? Are you out of your mind? The doctor calmly responds. I cannot speak to my mental state based on the things I've witnessed and the things I've done. You know better than I do what type of man I am. Bang! Sterling, shockingly, pulls the trigger, shooting him in the chest. The doctor instinctively grabs his wound as blood leaves his body, and he falls down into the dirt. The gunshot frightened the baby, causing her to scream and cry more. Tommy picks her up out of the crib to carry her out. They go back to the hallway with the baby in Tommy's arms. As they start to return to Madison and Beau, they see water collecting on the ground, turning the dirt into mud. A few minutes later, Tommy and Sterling arrive again at the main hall near the depriver's room. The second they turn the corner, they see Madison lunge toward the dark wolf, where she is shot at and then flung to the ground with a broken arm. So again, earlier in the book, when I had the chapter of Beau's transformation and I was cutting back and forth between scenes, I rewound time a little bit to get you caught up to those current events. We did the same thing here. As Tommy and Sterling return, we are now caught up to where Madison was just shot at moments ago. As she lies on the ground, the dark wolf walks past her into the depriver's room. It watches Beau and Hank from the shadows as they struggle to kill the transforming chained man. Finally, Beau is able to maintain an extended grasp on the right leg as it continues to try kicking him away. He doesn't hesitate and immediately sinks his teeth into the depriver's ankle, shaking his head violently and chewing its entire foot off. As a result, its legs give out from underneath it and it falls to the ground. There are marks, scratches, and wolf bites all over its body from Hank's full wolf mutilating his upper body. Wolf Hank is howling in celebration of their victory when the dark wolf finally strikes. It uses its claws to stab up underneath Hank's razor fur at the exact location of his change point. Wolf Hank instantly falls to the ground, growling and whimpering in agony. He slows his movement as Beau's temporary forced change from the anorthosite also wears off. The sheriff cheers in triumph as the dark wolf has succeeded in its mission under his guidance. Now more comfortable firing his pistol, Sterling takes a couple shots at the sheriff hiding at the corner of the other end of the hall. The sheriff ducks down and straightens his cowboy hat as he hides. "Get him, boy!" he yells at the dark wolf to attack them. The dark wolf leaves the depriver's room and turns to face Tommy and Sterling. Bo is torn between seeing his dad die in front of him and trying to stop the dark wolf. As the wolf puts weight on its hind leg to build energy, heroically, Madison jumps up behind him and stabs him in the back with the wolf bone blade. The dark wolf frantically reaches back, trying to pull the sword out, but it can't. It falls to its knees and lies on its side. Madison leans over and takes her own wolf head off first. Her face is something. Ignore that. Her face is covered in sweat, and her hair is messy from wearing it for so long. "That was for my family, you SOB. If you want the colorful language, buy the book," she triumphantly says as she pulls back the wolf's head with her right arm. Her breathing suddenly stops. She tilts her head in silent shock, taking in what has just been revealed at her feet. Stumbling backward, she bumps the back of her hide into the wall. The dirt crumbles and scrapes as she slowly slides down and sits on the floor. Tommy, Sterling, and Bo look on in stunned silence with Madison as they realize the dark wolf is her son, Sam. Dun dun dun! End of chapter 23! So, big time twist, probably the biggest twist in the story. So if you were surprised, please buy the book. It's only $4.99. Big time reveal, a lot of things happening, a lot of stuff going on. Reading it, I'm still really proud of how it flows, how I'm giving you different pieces of description of each action sequence happening, going back and forth between Tommy and Sterling and Hank and Bo and Madison fighting the dark wolf. All these kind of major events happening simultaneously was no small feat to pull off, and I'm really proud of it. I thought it flowed really well, and I was able to keep up with the action, having forgotten a lot of the action. All I'll say on the Sammy reveal is that that was a change and a decision that I made while I was writing the story. There was a different backstory for that character, and it ultimately changed because I thought I could do better, and I'm really happy with this surprise. I don't think anybody predicts it or sees it coming, and it's justified and valuable to this story and the world of Werewolves Hide for its potential sequel. So, yeah. Only 2 chapters left, and my reread will be complete, and I'm super excited about that. I'm really proud of this chapter. I really liked a lot of the action going on here and how I was able to follow it. If you enjoyed this chapter, please, again, buy the book, $4.99. Review it on Amazon. It's a big help. If you want to follow my author journey long term, subscribe to the channel, like and comment on the videos. If you do comment, no spoilers, please. I put several years of my life into this stuff. I don't want to ruin it for anybody else. I want them to enjoy it and have it revealed at their own pace. If there are spoilers discussed, healthy spoiler warning, and try to keep discussion relegated to the chapter that we just read. As always, thank you for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next video.